Hi, everyone. This is the first tactical session track of our virtual event, Engaging Your Audience Before and After Your Event. I am Julia Haas. Thanks for coming today. I'm the Marketing Director at Darcy. And it's, first of all, just thank you so much for your time and attention today. It's really fun to be with fellow event marketers, peers, clients, and partners. So thank you so much for your time. We hope you were able to join the keynote session today. And again, like I said, this is the first tactical session track. We have strategic and tactical tracks. You can join any one of them throughout the next 3 hours. So let's get started. Before we go into our content today, I want to cover some housekeeping items. This will be about a 20 to 25 minute presentation with Q&A at the end. All of our sessions are about 25 minutes. So we'll share some awesome knowledge that we have with you, and then we'll cover Q&A at the end. We have a moderator here with us. His name's Chris Alberti. He's one of our event producers. Hi, Chris.
Hello.
How's it going? Thanks for joining. Good. Thanks for joining us. Chris will answer questions in the chat function. You should have a chat icon on your screen. And then we'll do one survey that he will also help us share. The session will remain open for about 5 minutes after it ends to address questions, and Chris will stay on. I have to jump to another session to moderate, so I'll see you again. So Chris will stay on to answer any questions. And then you can leave the session at any time by clicking and closing the window, the browser window that you're in. There should be another browser window open that you can go to the event homepage. And then finally, once you leave, you can join other sessions that are happening throughout the day. All right, I just want to get started with the presentation by saying, as event marketers, you all know why in-person events are so important. It's the connection, the engagement, and the experience that happens live and in real time. And so we've had to pivot and change what we've been doing and been used to doing over the last, several years, months, depending on when your career started in in live events. And so we've had this disruption of tangible experience. And so we've had to pivot to these virtual opportunities. And while in some ways virtual events are similar in how you plan them to live events, in some ways they're different. And that's why we want to cover off on this session, ways to plan your virtual event with your audiences in mind so you can really focus on the most relevant content for them, integrating measurement before, during, and after your event, and then connecting with audiences and keeping them engaged. And as you may have heard in the keynote session right before me, and if you didn't, that's okay, it will be recorded and you can hear it later. Darcy is focused on a return to live events. We crave that connection and that engagement that ultimately drives business forward. But in the meantime, we're going to focus on this journey, bridging people-focused online experiences and a safe return to face-to-face. And you may have heard in the keynote session that we have a three-pronged approach. We're captivating at-home audiences today, then planning for a scaled, strategic, and safe return to face-to-face, and finally modeling that hybrid engagement strategy for weeks, months, and years to come. Primarily, my presentation today is going to focus on number one, right? That's where we're at right now, which is captivating the at-home audience today, which isn't easy because everyone's time and attention is pulled in a million places online. And so we really need to focus on honing in on what can captivate an audience's attention today, so that when we return to face-to-face events in the next few months or years to come, we don't have to start over with those connections and relationships we have. We'll have cultivated them throughout this unique period that we're facing today. And as I was building my presentation over the last few weeks, the weather's been beautiful where we are, and I was thinking about other places in our lives we've had to maybe change direction or think about things differently. And I immediately thought about summer vacation. And it made me think about the summer road trip. International travel and airline travel isn't really happening. And so we're dealing with the constraints we have, safety constraints, budget constraints, and just the constraints of overall travel. And so a lot of Americans and others are hitting the road to take road trips instead of maybe a typical vacation where they'd hop on a plane. And it's not too different from virtual experiences. We're working with the constraints we have and still trying to establish experiences with ourselves and our friends and family. And if you take it even a step further, they have similar goals, virtual experiences and road trips. We're truly on a new adventure. We're learning new things absolutely every day. Virtual events can get you and your clients exposed to different places and people. That's one of the benefits of virtual events is that we're seeing is that it expands the reach of the people that you can get in front of. So that's a really great benefit of virtual events that we may not have had within the live events that we're used to executing. Quality time and quality connections. Like I said, it's really difficult to establish quality connections online, but we're learning new ways of doing that and new processes to make that happen. And then finally, time away from the ordinary. We're on Zoom calls every day. So how do we create time away from those ordinary meetings and provide inspirational content to our customers and our prospects in a way where they want to share that experience with others? There's some parallel paths there between the road trip and virtual experiences. So what does it take to have the best experience ever? Well, whether we're talking about road trips or virtual events, you can leave it to chance when it's just you, but really we've learned this during the planning of our virtual event today. When other people are counting on you to be informed, engaged, and inspired, it truly takes insight and planning. So I really want to drive that home today. And when we talk about virtual event planning, we've broken it out into 3 buckets. Beforehand, how do you narrow down the endless possibilities and be relevant to the audiences you're trying to reach? During, how do you maximize the engagement and inspiration? Called the oohs and the ahs. How do you keep people engaged and attentive for the time that you're asking them for? And then finally, afterwards, how do you embrace and grow connections? Well, we feel it's through establishing measurement and then making sure you're following up after. So I'm going to dig into the before, during, and after planning phases in this presentation. So let's start with pre-event planning. Before your event, really something that is so important and seems simple, but it's not. Know who you're going to invite and what's important to them. So when we go to trade shows or live events, we may already have built-in insights to understand who's attending or who to invite, whether we know the titles or the roles of people attending. If it's a conference, there's already information about what educational topics they're looking to understand. So you have all of these cues built in to establish conferences and trade shows. If you're doing your own proprietary event, you may not have that information readily available. And so here's a couple ideas on how to build that out for yourself. First, talk to your sales team and document it. At Dursey, we talk to our sales team pretty often. We have quarterly sales webinars. We do surveys and roundtables. We talk one-on-one with our sales team and often offer sales support to them frequently. And so those cues are telling us what our clients or our prospects are looking to understand, the problems that they have that we can provide solutions for. And that's a way to really understand what's important to your invitees of your event. So there's so many stats out there about how aligned sales and marketing teams really drive better results and more revenue for organizations. So I can't stress enough that this is a really important time to talk to your sales team because they're on the front lines of talking to clients about what's important. Second, find the spark. And what I mean by spark is really the insight that grabs your audience's attention and makes it relevant for them. I personally think it's the intersection between a personal and professional insight that prompts someone to be really engaged. And what we suggest is using previous content engagement metrics and audience insights to know what resonates. So some of the tools that we use to understand what content resonates, we look at Google Analytics. What pages on our website are people visiting most often? We look at what engagement through blog posts and social posts are most successful. So that's going to give us cues on what our audience is interested in. Use last year's trade shows, the conversations that happened, the engagements that happened during those trade shows or events, that's a cue for us to know what resonates with our audience. And then finally, set baseline goals for your audience. So if you've never done a virtual event before, don't try and do everything for your audience. Maybe you just want them to discover something new. Maybe you want them to participate and give you feedback or engage with a product or service. So set a baseline goal. It's going to help set a path for you and how to build out your virtual event and provide value for your audience. The visual on the right-hand side is a webinar that we did about a month ago. It's a visual of the start of the webinar. And it really was prompted because our sales team was asking us for information about how to best return to in-person events once we're able to. So that's what their clients and prospects were asking about. So we ended up doing an entire webinar about it, and it was very successful because it was born out of an insight, a real insight that our clients were asking about. It was a challenge that we could provide a solution to. So I think we're going to go to our first poll question. So Chris, can you deploy the first poll? And the question is, when it comes to planning virtual or in-person events, in what capacity do your sales and marketing teams work together? Is your sales team not involved at all? Your marketing leads the event planning and execution. Is it that marketing plans the event, but sales attends and it's a handoff? Do you work hand in hand with your sales team to make sure your experience supports your customer needs and your sales and marketing objectives? And then is it your sales team that leads? So we have clients who fall into all of these buckets. There's not necessarily a right or wrong answer. So I'd like to see what everyone's thinking. So we'll wait just a couple minutes for everyone to submit questions. And then Chris, do you want to tell us what the most popular answer is?
Absolutely. I will update you here in a second, but right now we're about dead even. The top two are marketing plans, the event, trade show logistics, and sales team attends meet with customers. And then head to head with, we work hand in hand to make sure our customers' experience supports our customers' needs, etc. right here. And those are going real even.
Great. And that's great. I love hearing that because that means you're talking with your sales team, whether you're handing it off or working hand in hand, and you're already at a really positive start. So keep going with talking to your sales team. It's going to be a great time to continue those conversations. All right, I'm going to keep going. So before your event, let's also think about where you're headed and sharing the plan with your audience. One of the things I can't stress enough is creating clarity and communicating the agenda for your attendees. So today, because you've registered for our event, we shared the entire agenda. We're asking for a big chunk of your time, up to 3 hours of sessions. And so it's really important to not just give people 1 or 2 sentences about what you're going to cover, but really think through how much information you can share ahead of time so that person that's registering knows what's for them and what's not. You'd rather have engaged people that understand the value that they're going to get by attending than a large quantity of people that it might not be very relevant for. One easy way to do that is to provide context by saying this event is best for event and trade show marketers. This event is best for people who want to learn X, Y, and Z. So a simple sentence providing context about what the event is, who the event is best for, is extremely helpful. Knowing that we have so many events and webinars online to attend, or options are really endless at this point, having that context is key. And then using registration wisely. Ask questions of what people want to learn. We asked you that in registration. We also did for our webinar that we had about a month ago. And we asked people what they wanted to learn about. And we literally, I don't know if you can see it in the little, the snapshot, but we built those questions right into our presentation. It created content for us. That was great. And it provided value for the people that were asking. And we were sure that other people would be asking as well. So that was really, really helpful for us. And I highly recommend asking anyone attending your events what they want to learn and what they want to get out of it. The other thing we did with registration was ask you all, what do you miss most about face-to-face? I mean, Adam said it in our keynote. We just wish we could be with you all in person. I thought I would share some of the answers we got just for some inspiration, because we got some really great answers, and I would imagine a lot of you are feeling the same way. What's so special about in-person trade shows and events? We got some awesome answers. First of all, probably most popular was social human interactions. We are craving that human interaction and can't wait to get back to it. Networking and helping people. It feels really good when you're at an event or trade show and someone comes up to you with a problem and you can provide a solution to them, to someone maybe you've never met before. Qualified lead generation. We heard that a lot. It's hard online to understand if you've received a good lead that's attended your event. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Engagement, immediate satisfaction, and camaraderie. I think the spontaneity of having awesome conversations in real time, we're missing that. Everything feels planned and online. Just having that, that opportunity to have camaraderie with your fellow peers is truly missing. Having a more captive audience, I mentioned that earlier. It's hard to keep people's time and attention. So we do miss that about the live events. This one I think I'm going to hang up in my office because I think it was really well said. The atmosphere of having people come together in one spot, in a new place, and watching them build new or strengthen relationships with each other. Couldn't have said it better. And then finally, smiles and big hugs. Maybe Olaf from Frozen sent this one in, but I really liked it. So thank you for whoever submitted that as what they miss, because I think we do miss that face-to-face connection. Finally, before your event, consider the preparation and supplies required. So what I mean by that is that it's really important to understand your attendee preferences so you can set the tone and drive engagement. Depending on the industry you're in, if you have a virtual event where you know a lot of introverted personalities are attending, don't ask them to network, don't ask them to participate live. It could really throw them off. If they're coming to learn, maybe give them different options for learning and let them listen versus participate. If you're having a virtual event with clients that you've known for a long time, maybe it's a great place to share personal stories or have them network. So think about the tone, think about the engagement touch points based on your attendee preferences. If you're not sure, you can really mix up the different types of engagement, but think about it prior, not during. And then finally, be prepared to measure and consider new measurement opportunities. So I think it's at 12 o'clock today, Central Time. There's an entire session on measurement of virtual events and quantifying virtual event measurement. But what I want to say here is that be prepared ahead of time with a marketing dashboard, a spreadsheet, so you know all the different areas that you can measure during your virtual event. Think about what you want to learn ahead of time and be able to document it. The other cool thing is that with online events, there's new measurement opportunities, right? We can see online how many people are taking polls, raising their hands, how many eyeballs are on our presentation. So there's a lot of new measurement opportunities that go along with virtual events. You can also use existing tools in your marketing arsenal, like marketing automation to follow up after that gives you data that you might not have used at a live event. UTM codes so that when people click on links, you can measure how many people clicked and where they went. So I think it's really important to know that while we are feeling limited in the, by not being able to attend live events, there are new opportunities to measure online that we may not have considered in the past. And this would be a good time too to bring in your digital marketing teams and your IT teams as partnerships for these measurement opportunities online. All right, now let's talk about during your event. And while this session is primarily focused on pre and post planning in terms of virtual event, things you're doing during your event are going to help build that success. So first of all, I'd recommend allowing for detours. People like options, so allow for flexibility. One suggestion I have is to use on-demand and live content. That way, depending on how people like to interact or learn, they have options. For example, we're doing a lot of live presentations today. You're in one of them, but we also have a resources tab on the main page, and you can go in and reference different resources that we've queued up in our presentations. You can click on those, review those. They take you to some of them take you to our website. So it's really a nice way to allow for different options based on people's preferences. Also, today we have a 3-hour event, so it's pretty long. Use different formats, topics, and engagements to keep people engaged and also to gain insight on what's most popular. So we could have, like I said, we have some surveys in some events. we're asking questions in others, we're driving to resources and other sessions, and we're going to be able to see that data and know what resonated the most. We'll be able to see what topics were most important or popular as well. So allowing for that flexibility is really key for your audience as we all continue to learn what's most important in virtual experiences. Also during your—
5 minutes left, sorry to interrupt.
Oh, great, okay, I'm gonna hustle through. All right, during your event, capture the memories. Build moments where you can capture data and insight. I talked about polls, we did one at the beginning. We'll have that insight to use in the future and share. One webinar I went to was the presenter pulled up a Google document for sharing where people could literally write their ideas and answer questions real time to see what their peers were thinking. I thought that was brilliant. Drive traffic to additional content. Here you can add, you'll see on the right-hand side, during that webinar that I keep referencing, we used QR codes to drive to a ebook download that's on our website as well as a fun video. We immediately could see how many people downloaded the video and viewed downloaded the ebook and viewed the video. So that's really great opportunities for us to understand data in real time. People like free stuff. You can encourage engagement by offering gifts that you can deploy after your event. And then finally, Chris, who just warned me of my time, include an administrator in each session or presentation, because then I, as the presenter, can focus on the presentation and the administrator can capture that data on the back end. Finally, after your event, let's document and share those memories. There's ways to use your content that you have during your virtual event afterwards to gain even more value. Email links to presentations. Don't prevent people from viewing your content just because they couldn't attend. They were probably pulled somewhere else. So make it easy for them to see those presentations after. We will be emailing out our presentations and keeping this platform open after our event as well. Share the poll engagement with your attendees. Let them know they're not alone. Share all of that data with your clients. I think they'll really appreciate it. We also build blog posts, so we'll be building out different blog content based on these presentations that drives stronger SEO for your website, as well as more website traffic. Your sales team can use that content to focus on client support or prospect support. Think about also using it for PR. Share the content with your trade partners, industry partners. They may want to use that or ask you to participate in roundtables to discuss that thought leadership. And then finally, share on social. There's so many awesome things that we'll learn today, quotes, questions. That's all great fodder for if you have a strong social network that likes to engage. We think you should also thank the people that made the experience better. Think about breaking the fourth wall with a post-event direct mail piece. Send to your top leads or top engaged people at your event something as a gift, as a thank you that's relevant to them. Maybe it has a personalized sales team follow-up. And make sure as you follow up with everyone to document it in your customer database or CRM. That way you know the relationships that have been cultivated during this virtual time. So when you go back to in-person events, you will understand the relationship and how it's evolved in the past. And finally, take time to reflect. I cannot say this is so important. Share surveys with your participants. Ask them what worked, what they thought could be better, ask them for future opportunities for content, ask them for future event or webinar ideas. They'll give it to you, absolutely. They want to share what's interesting to them. If you're looking for new leads, ask if they'd be open to a follow-up call or demo. So that's a great way to identify new leads because people will raise their hand and say, I'm really interested in X, Y, and Z, I'd like to talk more. Internal summaries are extremely important as well. The time versus the cost versus the measurable value of putting on a virtual event. Everyone's learning, and so it's really important to understand what worked, what didn't, and the lessons learned. And then just make sure to follow up quickly afterwards. So if someone's really interested in a topic, really make sure that you have a system in place where a salesperson or someone who's leading that event can follow up quickly with more information to grow that connection. So I thought I'd end with a quote. There's a lot of road trip quotes out there actually. So I provided the URL where you can find some fun ones, but I thought this one was really perfect because I think we're on a journey together, right? And a virtual event should not be seen as a destination, a point in time. You should really think about how you can make it a larger part of your marketing mix in the future, and also think about what you can do before and after to maximize the value of that virtual event. So some key takeaways as I end the session. Start with the why and focus on your audience. That's what it's all about. Make sure you have a reason to capture their time and attention. Build in moments of engagement and measurement so that you can showcase the value of the event. And the end of your event is not the end. Follow up and follow through to grow connections. So I don't know how much time we have, probably maybe one question, Chris. I don't have any, but I've also included my email and LinkedIn. So if you want to ask me questions later, you certainly can. And that's me, by the way, at my last road trip at the Grand Canyon last year.
None currently, Julia. No current questions on the calendar. We do have one from earlier in the day if you wanted me to read that off to you.
Sure, we totally have like 1 minute, so let's go for it.
All right, we'll make it short. What is the recommended lead time for engaging, inviting people to a virtual event, and then follow up afterwards?
Yeah, I think lead time for a virtual event depends on the scope and the quantity of people you're inviting. You know, allowing at least a couple weeks for people to plan is usually best practice. But with everyone being invited to a lot of different webinars and events, a week out isn't necessarily a bad thing, because just the recency of seeing something quickly and then being able to register for it quickly isn't so bad either. So it really does depend on the scope in terms of the time allotted to invite people. But I would say 2 to 3 weeks out is optimal. And then afterwards, immediate follow-up is probably the best. Have a system in place to connect salespeople or marketing people to connect with people who have questions or want to follow up afterwards. So have that system in place ahead of time so that you can immediately follow up and continue to grow that relationship. All right, I want to share what's coming up next. We have 2 tracks, the strategic track and the tactic track. The strategic track is about defining virtual audience needs with infinity mapping. So strategically mapping out your plans and your virtual audience needs. And that's with Adam Carnes and Pete Riddell. And then making your virtual experiences easier, how Darcy can help. That's the tactical track. It's with Rick Stoner. I'll actually see you in there. I'm the moderator in that one. And that one will be about the different ways Darcy can offer support if you are thinking of executing a virtual experience in the near future. So you can leave this session when you're ready by clicking and closing the window. And once you leave, you'll be taken back to that event schedule page in your separate browser. You can go into the event schedule and add upcoming sessions you want to attend into your personal agenda. And then in your personal agenda is essentially just like your own little schedule. You can click on the sessions you want to join and join the sessions and listen in to whatever looks good. So thanks everyone. I really appreciate your time and attention. And we will be recording this and it will be available in the next week. So if you want to look back on anything, you certainly can. So thanks again. Take care.